Hi everybody, Sarah here. This is going to be a Yin practice class today, very different to the other classes on our channel. I teach Yin classes once a week. It's a type of yoga that's becoming more and more popular as it's a wonderful way to transition from yoga poses into a more meditative state of mind. And people are becoming much more interested in meditation. But it's kind of nice because you're actually doing something with your body at the same time. There are a lot of benefits in Yin Yoga in that you're going to be opening up the connective tissue, the deeper, drier, more sort of stuck tissue, particularly around your lower back and your hips, by letting go of the muscles, by letting the muscles relax. I'm going to be teaching you 4 or 5 Yin postures. We will pepper a couple of downward facing dogs in between to bring back a little bit more strength and heat, and also to help you transition from a couple of very deep back bends into a more forward folding stance. So down dog is there sort of as a nice sort of palate cleansing, rebooting pose. But I want you to begin in a asymmetrical pose where we're going to be in a more of a forward fold. So from here, please, coming into half butterfly, I want you to lengthen your left leg and to bend your right leg, kind of like you would do in tree pose. Now before you come into this, make sure that you have your blocks nearby. You're not going to need a blanket for this one, although actually, having said that, if you know that you're a little tighter and you're new to yoga, feel free to put a blanket or a towel underneath your 2 sitting bones. In fact, I'm going to do that now. So I'm a folded blanket, just raising up the sitting bones another sort of ½ centimetre or so is really nice. So your left leg is straight, but relax it. So let the toes just drop and let the entire leg be very soft. Very differently to how we often engage and lengthen and strengthen in more hatha classes. I'm going to time this so that we're doing about 2 minutes on each side. The block or the blocks are here for you to potentially rest your head. So come into a forward fold in between your knees. So raise your chest a little bit and place your hands onto your block, and you can use fists. You might not need blocks. You might be very flexible and find that you can actually bring your forehead to the floor, or maybe actually really on the floor, not just on your fists. I recommend that you really start conservatively. So find your shape. And once you're in the pose and you feel like you're moving forward in between your knees, not too much to the left or the right, try and let your entire body soften. You may well feel your left sitting bone slightly rising off the floor here. That's okay, but let it feel heavy and drop down towards the floor in a soft, loose way. The only thing that I've really got working here are my fists, the muscles of the hands. Everything else I'm trying to really soften and let go. Even the sight, just look at one point straight down, trying not to literally move your eyeballs around. So in Yin Yoga, we're very steady, very still, very introverted. There's very little movement here, very little muscle contraction. It's really a practice of letting go, of surrendering. You may find, after being in the pose, we're about halfway through now, that you can actually move the block forward a little bit more, lengthening the lower back. You may find that you can bring the block down a level or get rid of one of the 2 blocks, maybe even 3 blocks, so that you can deepen the pose, now that the muscles have released that little bit more. Let the left ribs drop down. And notice your breathing here. Don't change it, just follow it. Breathing in and out through your nose. Make sure that your head is is in a position where you don't feel any tightness in the back of your neck, so you might actually want to tuck your chin up and under a little bit more, so you can really release the muscles and lengthen the muscles on the back of your neck. Now that's 2 minutes. So we're going to come out of the pose and come to the other side. So from here, bring your hands to the floor and push yourself up. Bend the left leg, straighten your right leg, and again come up to lots of support. So from here, place your blocks right in between your knees. You might need to shuffle yourself around a little bit, stack your fists. If you want, you can get another blanket and put it on top of the blocks, so your forehead is resting on a blanket rather than your arms, and then you can bring your arms down to the floor. And you'll notice here again that the right leg might sort of rise up a little bit. Just let it drop down so that the right lower back can really lengthen, and all the tissues on the right side of your lower spine can lengthen and let go. Relax your shoulders and your hands. Make sure that your head is placed in a position that feels like your neck is just moving straight forwards, not over to the left or the right. And now we're about halfway through. If you want, move the props a little bit more forward, away from you, perhaps lower, or maybe not. Be very aware of any injuries that you have when you're practicing Yin Yoga. You don't want to agitate any discs that are recovering, or any aspect of your knee joint that might be repairing from a twist or a strain. So be conservative, if anything. Being here for a long time is already doing the work. You'll notice when you do Yin that your mind wanders off frequently. You think about your past, your future. Try and keep your mind anchored and being interested in what your body is doing. Now that's 2 minutes on the right side. So from here, slowly pick yourself up. Push your hands so that you can bring your chest up. And then move the blocks away. We're going to come into the Yin version of Child's Pose. Pick yourself up off your blanket. You might want to use your blanket for underneath your forehead in this pose. So place your blanket or your towel there, and if you don't have one, it's fine. Don't have your knees too wide apart, because I want you to lengthen your lower back here. So when you come into a kneeling position, have your knees just a little bit so there's enough space for your belly and chest. And then press your hands into the floor and get long. So do a little bit of yang work here and lengthen your muscles. Raise your chest. And then drape your belly and your chest forward. You can bring the blanket underneath your forehead. Tuck your chin up in towards your chest so your hairline is on the floor or on the blanket. Now your arms are going to be as relaxed as you can make them. So bring the backs of your hands to the floor. Curl your fingers. And then feel how it feels to maybe bring your hands a little closer to your knees or a little closer to your feet, so that your shoulder blades can really drop and separate on your upper back. You're going to hold this again for 2 minutes. So not very long Yin holds here. Yin poses are usually done between sort of 2 and 10 minutes long. I don't want to make it too long in this first class that we do. I'll repeat classes in the future with longer holds, but for now this is long enough, unless of course you want to pause and stay a little longer yourself. That's up to you. Now really try and surrender. Let the muscles of your feet relax. Make sure that your big toes are either separate or just touching side by side. The muscles around your knees, your thighs, your calves. If you're feeling uncomfortable here in your bottom slightly raised up, then
Put a blanket underneath your seat so that you can rest your bottom on something. Bring your awareness again to your breathing. Don't change the cadence of your breath or the depth of it, just observe. We're about halfway through. You'll notice that as you hold child's pose for a much longer time in Yin, it feels very different. The texture, the energy of the pose is very different to how it would be if you were just holding it for 3 or 5 breaths in a hatha class. The mind responds in a different way. Try and let the muscles in your lower back completely relax, as well as the muscles in your abdomen, around your shoulders, your upper back and your neck, around your mouth and your eyes. And surrender to the discomfort in the compression of your hips and your knees. If that discomfort becomes pain, then please come out of the pose, and that goes with any Yin pose. Now, coming out of child's pose, push your feet down into the floor and raise your chest. If you had a blanket underneath your head like I do, then move it off your blanket and come into downward facing dog. So place your hands well. We're going to be much more yang now and precise. Index fingers point forward. Pick up your knees, widen the position of your feet or to the edges of your mat, and squeeze your legs. As you push your hands forward, squeeze your arms and press back. Squeeze your knees, squeeze your elbows. So now your muscles are very strongly activated. So you're moving the energy that was very much deep inside your body, around the knees and the hip joints and the spine, more to the periphery of your body, to your muscles and to your skin. Let your head hang. You can turn your head a couple of times. Now bring your knees down to the floor and come into Anahatasana. So we're coming more into back bend now. Move your knees back, bring your toenails down to the floor, and walk your hands forward. If your hands come off the mat, then move your knees back a little bit more. This is called puppy dog pose sometimes as well. Your thigh bone is going to stay straight up and down in both legs, as you then bring your forehead either to the floor. If it doesn't come to the floor, then please put your blanket underneath your forehead. So in Yin, we're usually targeting the lower back and the hips, but here you're going to feel your chest and your arms really opening. Now you do need to keep your arms pretty strong here, but try and put some softness in. As you keep your elbows straight, put a little bit of softness in, and slightly lengthen your tailbone away from the back of your head, but not as much as you would do if you were doing this in a big, strong, back-bending vinyasa or hatha class. Because you're going to be here for another minute or so, and that will be very difficult to maintain. Press your hands down very gently. It doesn't matter if your hands peel a little bit up away from the floor. If your palms peel up, I should say. I'm going to stay here for about half a minute longer. Try and let your chest drop down towards the floor and let your mid-back open and soften. If you need to change the position of your forehead, you might actually find, having been in this pose already for a while, that you can bring more of your nose to the floor as you move your forehead a little closer to your thumbs. There's quite a lot of yang in this Yin pose, quite a lot of muscular strength, but try and soften your shoulders and just let your heart drop down towards the floor. Now we're going to come into a back bend that's more targeted towards the lower back. And we can hold this one a little longer because the lower back loves to bend. That's what it's made for. So you're able to sustain it for longer. So from here, raise your head up off the floor and bring your elbows down. Then move forward with your chest and bring your thighs down. We're going to come into Sphinx Pose. And I'm going to give you options of depth here as well. So if your lower back is young and juicy and injury-free, you can put a blanket under your elbows to raise the level of your elbows and chest, and that will deepen the back bend. Please only do this if you know that you can sustain this for 3 minutes, and we are going to stay here for 3 minutes. If your lower back has an injury or a slight disc tear or whatever it may be, then I recommend that you don't have that at all, and that you either keep your elbows on the floor under your shoulders or even move your elbows more forward to lessen the depth of the lower back bend. I'm going to come about halfway. Whatever you're doing, relax your hands. I quite like to park my fingers in an interlace with a very soft bend. Try not to slump down too much and be very yin. And by contrast, also try not to raise up too much and be too yang or kind of soldier-like. Find a place in the middle. And then look slightly ahead and rest your eyes on one point. Relax your lower back, relax the muscles around your bottom as much as you can. But again, if you feel like you need to protect an injury, you can put a slight contraction in your glutes, but try and let go if you can. Feet nice and wide apart and your legs very, very relaxed. Let your thigh bones drop down to the floor. If you feel you need to move your head because your neck is straining, then by all means drop your chin down towards your chest once or twice throughout the pose. We're about halfway through. Visualize your lower spine coming into a big curve. So the front of your spine, the part of your spine that's closest to the floor, is opening like a fan. And the back of your spine, facing up to the ceiling, is compressing. The bones literally compressing each other. This helps to build the bones and release the connective tissues, the ligaments, the tendons, the fascia, all around the lower back, lengthening them, where they very rarely get the opportunity to be challenged, to be lengthened, to be opened. Try and yield down to that as much as you can. Stay here. Drop down a little bit more with your spine. And then come into downward facing dog. This is going to be quite hard work, having done a lot of yin, but place your hands, push your knees down, push the floor away, tuck your toes under, and press back. And again, muscular strength here. Squeeze your thighs, push your hands forward, and bring your chest towards your thighs. Lift up your sitting bones. Now we're going to come into our final yin pose, a lying down twist. So bring your knees down to the floor, sit onto your heels. Just watch me for a moment. Props are going to be here available for you, and I'm going to show you how they can be used. So just stay here for a moment. What you're going to do is come all the way down and cross one leg over the other. Then you'll shift your bottom over, and the prop is going to be here for you to be able to rest your legs on something. Okay? The closer you bring the block in towards your body, the higher your knees are up, the more support you'll get. The further away, the more challenging it is, the deeper the twist.
Also, I do recommend that you put the blanket underneath the opposing shoulder. So put your blanket or your towel now on the left side of your mat and your block on the right side of the mat. And your blanket can go underneath the opposing shoulder. So I'm going to talk you through it all now, unless you've already done it. So from here, come all the way lying down, cross your left leg over your right leg, and move your bottom a little bit over to the left. Then, with your block in place on the right side of your mat, drop your knees over to the right and bring either your top knee or sort of the inner thigh of that top leg, that left leg, onto the block. And remember, your block can be put on different heights. So if you need a bit more support, bring it up a level. Then, bring the blanket underneath your left shoulder so that your shoulder can rest down on something, unless you're very flexible and you can take the blanket away and the shoulder is on the floor. Now you're going to stay here for another 2 minutes. I want you to imagine that your left lung goes all the way down to your left knee. And that when you inhale, you're inhaling golden light, amazing golden energy, prana, all the way down the left side of your body. And even imagine that you're breathing more predominantly through your left nostril. Make sure your fingers are loosely curled, the backs of your hands are on the floor. Soften your face and keep breathing in the left side of your body, nourishing every tissue and every cell, from your upper left lung all the way down to the left lower back, to the left buttock, to the outside of that left leg, all the way to the knee. Relax your feet and keep breathing in that golden, nourishing energy, lengthening and opening all the tissues, particularly around the left lower back. Try and surrender and drop your left shoulder, your legs and your feet down to the floor. About another minute left. If you feel you can increase this twist, that it's becoming quite comfortable, then press your right elbow down and pick up the back right ribs and move them a little closer towards that right elbow and place them down. Deepening the twist, you can drop that left shoulder and the left ribs down a little bit more towards the floor. Come back to that breath work of breathing in to the left lung, into the left leg, even into the left kidney, just behind the lower left back ribs. Now coming to the other side, push your feet down, firm your abdominal muscles to help you bring your heavy legs up. Uncross that left leg, shift your bottom back to center and move your block over to the left side. And if you needed the blanket, do the same thing, over to the right. Cross your right leg over your left, shift your bottom a good 10 centimeters over to the right so that you can really come onto the outside of your left hip as you now drop your knees over to the left. And again, make sure that the block is there so that you can rest, you can let go. You don't have to hold your muscles up. And then turn your palms up. Soften your shoulders. You can adjust the twist by doing as you did before, pushing the left elbow down, move the back left ribs over to the left, and maybe do that again after you've been in the pose for about a minute. Deepening the twist as your body adapts and lengthens. And then come into the breathing, the golden light, this stream of good energy that's the air around you, harnessing that and bringing it into the right side of your body. Breathing in through your right nostril, continuously stoking the fires of your right kidney, down the right side of your body, the right buttock, the outside of your right leg, all the way to the knee. And that will help you to soften your feet and your calf muscles as you really let go. Keep that visualization of breathing into the right lung, imagining that that right lung extends all the way down to your right knee. Feel free to lengthen your breath a little bit more here if you want to. Perhaps breathing in for about 4 seconds and breathing out for about the same amount of time. Now you're more than halfway through. If you want to deepen, push your left elbow down and move the back left ribs a little more over to stay as you are. And let you've put your body in, give you the opportunity to breathe in with clarity into the right side of your body. Coming out of this pose, push your feet down, firm your abs, bring your knees up, uncross your legs. If you've got a blanket underneath your right shoulder, move it away now. Shift your bottom back to center, move the block out of the way, and come into Shavasana. I recommend that you stay here for as long as you have. If you want to set the timer in case you fall asleep, then now's a good time. Make sure that your body, your arms and your legs are an equal distance away from the center line of your body, that your fingers are loosely curled. If you want to press your elbows down and bring your shoulder blades closer to each other, then do. And feel the weight of the entire back body drop down towards the floor. The ultimate yin pose, Shavasana. Close your eyes and rest. Now I'm going to come out of the pose now. Please feel free to stay for as long as you want. If you want to come out with me, then bend your legs, one leg at a time. Roll over onto your right side and come up into a seated position. You can stay here in meditation if you wish, or finish your practice. Namaste.